Did you know that the simple salt sitting in your kitchen was once considered one of the most valuable things in the world? For centuries, this very salt symbolized power, became a center of trade, and sparked several revolutions. Let's embark on a historical journey where salt was not just a flavor, but the central character in stories of power, wealth, and rebellion. Our story begins in ancient Egypt, around 3000 BC. Here, salt was not just a food ingredient. It was considered a sacred bridge between life and death. In ancient Egypt, salt was viewed as a precious and holy substance, used not only for preserving food, but also holding central importance in religious rituals. Specifically, a natural salty compound called natron was used in the mummification process, which helped absorb moisture from the bodies, preventing them from decaying and preserving them for centuries. This process of mummification was not only about physical preservation, but was also deeply connected to spiritual beliefs, as the Egyptians believed that by protecting the body, the soul could achieve eternal life. Therefore, salt was seen as a symbol of purity, protection, and eternity. During the same period, salt also gained a unique status in China. In 2700 BC, salt mines were discovered, and soon salt became not just a part of food, but a crucial pillar of the economy and politics. The Chinese governments established complete control over production and sale of salt. Ordinary people could only purchase salt with the government's permission, and heavy taxes were imposed on it. The revenue generated from these taxes filled the empire's treasury, funding large development projects, army salaries, and royal expenses. Control over salt became so significant that it was seen as a tool of state power and discipline. This was the moment when salt became a source of governmental power, wealth, and control for the first time. Next, let's move to ancient Rome. In the Roman Empire, salt was considered a valuable commodity, so much so that it was regarded as being equal in value to gold. The payment given to Roman soldiers for their services was often in the form of salt. This payment was called salarium, which later evolved into the term salary. Salt was not only an essential part of daily life, but also a central element of the military system and state discipline. It was seen as a price for power, labor, and loyalty, and was used not just to enhance the flavor of food, but also to boost the morale of soldiers and secure their allegiance. A whole network of roads, known as the salt roads, was built to facilitate the delivery of salt, ensuring this valuable resource reached the farthest corners of the empire. During this time, salt was not just a mineral, but an integral foundation of Roman power. Next, let's move to West Africa. Here, great empires like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai thrive on the trade of salt and gold. In these regions, the intense heat and sweating often led to salt deficiencies, making salt essential not only for flavor, but also for physical health. Caravans of camels, known as ships of the desert, brought large blocks of salt from the deserts of North Africa, which were exchanged for gold. In some areas, a piece of salt was so valuable that it was considered equivalent in weight to gold. Cities like Timbuktu became major trading hubs where salt, gold, and other goods were exchanged. In these empires, salt held the same importance as any precious treasure, being central to their economy, politics, and culture. Salt was not just a mineral necessity here, but also a source of power, wealth, and the very survival of daily life. In Ethiopia, salt was not just an ingredient for food, but was also used as currency. Salt was molded into specific bricks called amoli, which were long, thin, and hard. These bricks of salt held such importance that they were valued similarly to the banknotes or coins of today. People used these salt bricks to buy everyday goods, livestock, clothes, and other essentials. Amoli was considered a stable currency because salt was a basic need in every household, and its demand was always present. Sometimes, workers were paid for their labor in amoli bricks. In some areas, the amount of amoli a person had was used to gauge their wealth, status, and social standing. In this way, salt in Ethiopia was not just a medium of trade, but also an economic pillar of daily life. In ancient Greece, salt was not just a part of food, but was considered a pure and sacred substance. It was believed to be a source of spiritual cleansing and purification, and its use was common in various religious rituals. Before worship, it was a tradition to dissolve salt in water and wash hands or sprinkle on the body as a symbol of purity, cleansing both the body and soul from impurities. in the worship of certain gods, salt was offered as a sacred gift, especially during food sacrifices. Sprinkling salt in the offerings was considered essential to make the sacrifice pure and acceptable. Greek philosophers and religious leaders also viewed salt as a symbol of life, protection, and truth. In some regions, salt was considered so sacred that it was kept completely away from anything associated with lies or deception. In this way, salt held a deep religious and spiritual significance in ancient Greece. In medieval France, salt was not just a daily necessity, but also became a tool of state exploitation. The monarchy imposed a harsh and unfair tax called a gabelle. This tax was mandatory for everyone, whether rich or poor, and every person had to buy a specific amount of salt from the government. Even if they didn't need it, people were not allowed to buy cheaper salt from the market or make it on their own. If anyone tried to do so in secret, they faced severe punishment. This tax became a heavy burden on the poor, while the wealthy often found ways to avoid it. The gabelle didn't just create financial problems. It also highlighted the deep social inequality, leading to widespread anger and resentment among the public. Over time, this anger grew and gave rise to revolutionary ideas. In this way, the cruel salt tax became one of the major reasons behind the public uprising against the monarchy and eventually led to the French Revolution. While the gabelle tax in France sparked anger and rebellion among the people, Venice took a completely different economic approach by establishing a full monopoly over the salt trade. Venice's strategic location and trading expertise turned it into the largest hub for salt distribution in Europe. Its port, situated at a crucial intersection of sea routes, became a major center where salt and other valuable goods were sent across Europe. Venice not only controlled the supply of salt, but also imposed heavy taxes on it, which greatly boosted the city's economy and helped it rise as a powerful maritime and economic force. This monopoly allowed Venice to strengthen its navy, gain control over trade routes, and expand its influence on a global scale. Salt reserves became so valuable that they were not just for daily use, but also served as a key source of the empire's economic stability and power. In contrast to France's public uprising against the gabelle tax, Venice turned salt into an economic weapon that helped secure its place among the world's major trade powers. The Austrian city of Salzburg, which literally means salt fortress, became a key center for salt trade starting in the 12th century. The city gained fame due to large salt mines nearby, which served as a major source of salt for all of Europe. These salt mines stabilized Salzburg's economy and helped the city become one of the largest salt exporters in Europe by the 16th century. The salt was often called white gold because it held so much economic value that it was considered as precious as gold. Salt from Salzburg was shipped across Europe, and through this trade, the city not only gathered financial resources, but also established influence over European trade routes. Just as Venice built its power through a salt monopoly, Salzburg turned its salt mines into the foundation of a strong trade network. This was not only a sign of the city's economic strength, but also a symbol of its significance and power across Europe. During the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, salt became a highly valuable and essential resource because it was necessary for preserving military rations. Meat, in particular, was preserved with salt to prevent spoilage during long journeys or battles. Storing and using salt effectively became a crucial part of war strategy. The southern states had several major salt factories that supplied the region's needs. Taking advantage of this, the Union forces targeted and destroyed these factories to weaken the South supply lines. The goal was to create a salt shortage for the Confederate Army, which would affect not only food supplies, but also overall military strength. The Union forces attacked salt mines and storage centers in addition to the factories to block the South's access to salt. This made it difficult for the Confederate Army to maintain its food supplies, severely damaging its war efforts. In this way, salt became more than just a food item. It turned into a strategic resource and an economic weapon during the war. During British rule in India, the government had complete control over production and sale of salt. Heavy taxes were imposed, and people were only allowed to buy salt from the government, even if they lived near coastal areas where salt was naturally available. This policy not only placed a financial burden on the people, but also attacked their basic freedoms, as salt was an essential part of daily life. In protest of this injustice, Mahatma Gandhi launched the Salt March in 1930, which became a turning point in India's independence movement. He walked 240 miles on foot from Ahmedabad in Gujarat to the coastal town of Dandi. Along the way, Gandhi encouraged people to produce their own salt and defy British laws. His goal was to show Indians that they could stand up for their rights and reject unjust colonial policies. As a result, millions of Indians joined the movement and began making salt, creating a powerful act of civil disobedience. The Salt March was not just a political protest, but a symbolic act that reignited the spirit of freedom among Indians. It became a landmark moment in India's struggle for independence and raised global awareness against British oppression. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Soviet Union experienced a wave of panic caused by rumors of a salt shortage. During this period, the Soviet government was struggling with economic management and supply issues. Salt, a basic household item, suddenly became a symbol of crisis. As rumors spread that salt might run out, panic set in among the public. People lined up outside stores to buy salt, and in some places, shelves were emptied quickly. The government was already facing internal problems, economic difficulties, and shortages of essential goods, which led to growing public distrust. The salt panic highlighted the inefficiencies of the Soviet administration and increased social and political pressure. It became clear that even basic items were not guaranteed, raising serious questions about the government's ability to manage the economy. This event marked a significant moment when something as simple as salt became a sign of broader instability, both domestically and internationally. These events teach us a powerful lesson. Salt, which today seems like just a simple seasoning, has actually been a silent yet incredibly powerful force throughout human history. It's the element that shaped power struggles, sparked revolutions, and changed the fate of economies. So next time you sprinkle salt on your food, pause for a moment and think. These white grains are not just about taste, but echoes from a deep and powerful history, reminding us that sometimes the simplest things are part of the world's greatest changes. To find out when salt was discovered and what its most famous types are, click the thumbnail on the end screen. Goodbye.